when I talk about health, it's basically physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and social health. So looking at it, rather than, like you guys said there, not being about like, okay, this guy or girl's really skinny and they're all over Instagram, not necessarily health. It's like these more important pillars.
Hi, you're listening to Sam and Em solve the world's problems.
We have a lot of problems.
Why there's still problems?
I don't know, but there are, and we're here to solve them. So today we're going to be talking to a nutrition coach who's got a Bachelor of Engineering, Precision Nutrition Level 1, and he's currently studying his Cert 4 in nutrition.
Yeah, he's even my own personal nutrition coach as well. So please give a very warm welcome to Blake Atkins.
Yeah, this is a really exciting episode, so enjoy. Thank you so much for joining us, Blake. We're really excited for this chat about health and all things sort of health.
Yeah, great to see you on the other side of the laptop screen for once.
Yeah, what's that connection there? Who are you? What do you do?
So my name is Blake, and as Sam referred to there, I'm a nutrition coach. So basically just helping people reach their goals, whatever that might be. For Sam, it's a little bit different to my general client, which I'm usually working with weight loss clients. Just general population, really. And with Sam, we're doing all sorts of fun stuff, actually.
I'm a special case.
Yeah, very special case.
I guess my goals shift depending on, I don't know, the seasons, really.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, Blake's been great so far at helping me kind of navigate my different goals depending on what mood I'm in.
What sort of things do you talk about? Like, what actually happens in a session?
So,
do you want...
Go ahead. What would you say to this?
Okay, so I have to book my consults each week with Blake, and he'll send out a meeting invite, and I have to fill out like a survey. It's like a pulse check of all the different things that, like stress levels, sleep amounts, and just like kind of track that down. So that's recorded. And then once we get into the meeting, we'll talk about that, and then talk about either nutrition, training, because at the end of the survey, it's what are the two questions at the end of the survey, Blake?
Were there any obstacles that you encountered this week, and what were your areas of success?
Exactly. So if I've written any obstacles, it'll usually be something like sleep was trash, and then any areas of success. It could be things like social life, could be anything like that. And then we'll talk about that, talk about how I can improve and what I can do better depending on where my goals are, if my weight's gone up or down, or whatever we're focusing on. Was that a fairly accurate?
I think that was pretty good. I think that was pretty good. I think that there might be a pretty common theme with us talking about sleep and stress as the obstacles. But there's always some awesome wins in there too.
Yeah. Does that kind of sum up, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. So it's kind of like nutrition based, but more holistic. Kind of in terms of your whole life. Like you mentioned before, the sort of 5 pillars of health, you explore all of those.
Yeah, and I think because originally when I hit you, like Jackie put me into contact with you, I was entirely wanted to know about nutrition, and now we talk about sleep all the time. Because I guess there's only so much you can focus on nutrition, and once you've got that under your belt, it's like, what are the other things that are preventing
Well, there's only
me?
so much that, like, without good sleep, eating healthily is not going to make 100% of difference because you're still lacking in that one other area, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, exactly.
Nailed it.
Okay, but how did you? I'm interested to know in how, because we talk about me all the time in our meetings. So how did you come to start engineered nutrition, and what do you train for? And I'm interested to know more about you.
Yeah, of course. So I guess my journey into becoming a nutrition coach really all started. I've been quite into health and fitness for a long time now. Always grew up playing sports, that sort of thing. But always also grew up on the bigger side. I would definitely say that I was a chubby kid. So there was always that sort of side to me that wanted to constantly become, I guess back in that time, it was more about just looking better, basically. Always feeling like you were the chubby kid wasn't a very nice way to grow up. So always had that in the background. Coming through high school, started getting into training a lot more, was training CrossFit at the time. And then basically went straight into uni from high school into engineering, just because I think mostly it felt right. At the time I was interested in money. I thought, this would be a great career path, earn plenty of money, make plenty of people proud becoming an engineer. And basically just went straight into that. So then from there, it was probably about, I'd say my third year into uni that I was really invested into nutrition. So throughout the whole time, I sort of changed my life for the better with nutrition in terms of, I was increasing my performance when I was training for CrossFit. And I was also, started to eat a lot more and I guess you would say higher quality foods as well, and found that eating more and doing that, I ended up with better body composition as well. Felt better, looked better. It was great to get that improved confidence. So, yeah, as I said, coming into the third year of uni, at this point, I'd had a lot of experience in engineering. I had a cadetship at that point that allowed me to get tons of experience as an engineer, both on the research side and then later on in the industrial side as well. And kind of just found that, especially in the industrial side, that it kind of wasn't right for me in that it was long hours, high stress, and I just sat there getting home late after training and working all day and then just realizing that, my life up at that point was get home, quickly say hello to everyone, have a shower, and then make food for the next day. And then from there, it was try to get to bed at a reasonable time so I don't feel terrible the next day to wash, rinse, repeat. And really wasn't all that happy with how things were. So that was kind of one of the big factors in me deciding that, I was actually going to study nutrition on the side alongside my engineering degree so that I could perhaps pursue a career in it later on. And it was actually a dream I had about my dad that was sort of the last thing that made me go, like, I want to do this and I want to change lives. And it's a terrible dream, really, really shook me. But I was with my father. We were out somewhere. It was like somewhere in the city or something like that at an event. And all of a sudden he just collapsed. He started having a stroke basically. And he was still moving on the ground and groaning a bit at the time. And then I ran outside to try and get some help, managed to flag down some people, ran back inside and found him dead on the ground. And it was just like a very emotional, very vivid dream. And my father isn't now, but was overweight. And I figured that I could have a huge, huge impact on his life. And that was it. I woke up that morning, my dad was already at work, had a big conversation with my mum and just said that I could potentially, save my dad's life or at least give him higher quality of life for the rest of his life. And we managed to do that. He's lost 30 kilos since and he's in a much, much better place. But yeah, that was kind of where engineered nutrition started. Engineered because I did finish my university degree and became an engineer and thought, well, I may as well use it somehow and put it in the title. But it's just born out of a real passion for changing people's lives through nutrition the same way it changed mine.
Yeah. So you said, do you study nutrition as well?
Yeah.
Do you get a degree in there as a diploma or something or?
So there is a university degree, which is actually a Bachelor of Dietetics and Nutrition, which my partner is studying at the moment. So I did what's called Precision Nutrition Level 1, which is a very well-recognised certification. And since then, I've been studying the Cert 4 in Nutrition, which is a recognised in Australia as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, it makes I would absolutely be slapping on engineered on.
Yeah, definitely. You pay for the degree, put it wherever you can.
Yeah. But I feel like that's such a relatable story. Like to me, especially going to uni out of high school, just because, I'm sure you had the grades, you had, you were smart enough. And I don't even know if you had people telling you had to go. It just feels like you have to go, hey.
Pretty much.
Or even did you feel a pressure to study engineering because you got the ATAR too, so you could, so you should kind of thing?
Pretty much. It was this thing of you've got the capability, you have to use it. This is what you should be doing.
It's like an obligation.
Yeah, I was the exact same way. Did a degree that I didn't necessarily want to do for my life just because I got into it and thought I should do it because I have the opportunity to, but it's not really where I'm interested. So yeah, I feel like that's a very common kind of thing.
Definitely.
Same. I dropped out after a year.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Well, that's a great intro to who you are, I think. Might move on to like our first problem of how to be healthy on a budget. Like for all you uni students or people working or, you know, people who just want to be money savvy, like how can we, first of all, what is health to you? Second of all, like how can you do it for cheap?
Yeah, how do we
Asking for a
incorporate?
friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, and I'm really glad you brought that up there, that you did say like that we define what is health, because typically it can really be thought about as one-dimensional, being that like, you know, this person looks good, they're skinny, they might be muscular or, you know, lean, to put it. But realistically, that doesn't necessarily mean health. That could just mean that this person has a high metabolism, they could eat junk food all the time and still remain a low body fat percentage. So realistically, internally, they're not healthy. But then there's also a lot more to health than just the way you look or just the way internally you are in terms of digestion and those sorts of things. Really need to be looking at, you know, your social health, physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and emotional health. Those are sort of the pillars of health, which is now even scientifically recognized as being health.
Right. So I guess it's all like health is it individual to every person? Like health is different per person. Like what's healthy to someone could be very unhealthy for someone else kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. It can be thought of as like, you know, a scale of health, or, you know, often see like you'll have 5 pillars and you can sort of scale yourself 1 to 5 on each to see if you can create more of like a nice pentagon type shape. Say you get 10 out of 10 for all, you're perfectly healthy in some aspect. Whereas you might see someone that, you know, is physically quite fit, so their physical health might be a 10 out of 10. But then because they're training really long hours, they're putting meticulous effort into the way they eat, that would take a massive, massive stress on their emotional health, their mental health, those sorts of things. So you might get a 10 here, but draw away from other areas.
I was going to say, and when those ones are lacking, does that then pull away from like your fitness as well and your physical health? I feel like they all go kind of hand in hand, yeah. No, but good, I think, to, I guess, set some goalposts for what health actually is. And I think it's important to note that it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
So good to know. Before we get into our problems.
Yeah. So yeah, what does healthy on a budget even look like? What is it like if you're looking at it from like the most base introduction kind of level? What are the first sort of things you have to do? And
yeah, are there any foods that I have to eat? Are there any foods I can't eat? Like, I feel like we should, you know, get those, what do you call them? Clickbait articles out of the way at the top.
Yeah, good point. So very, very important one there around nutrition, and, you know, whatever your goal might be, whether it is for health, whether it's losing weight, gaining weight in the form of muscle, or whatever it might be, really important to remember that this is holistic as well. So you've got to think about the individual when it comes to any of those goals, whether it is to be healthier or whatever that might be. So I take an approach that, to be honest, I think diets suck. They're honestly always they're
love that.
They're really restrictive. They're almost impossible to follow long term. A really good way to think about it is whichever, because there are a lot of, like you said, clickbait, fad diet type things out there that just grab your attention. This is the next big thing. But realistically, if you look at that diet, you need to be able to say to yourself, like, you know what, I could do this for the rest of my life, easy, no worries. And you look at like your keto, which is basically a low carbohydrate diet, and it's like, okay, are you happy with not eating bread for the rest of your life?
Shaking my head.
Shaking my head.
Can't even go a week without bread.
No.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound like living. That's just strictly dieting and not fun.
Yeah.
So basically, I wouldn't say that there's no foods you should cut out. I think, to be honest, that a balanced diet would include things like ice cream and burgers and things like that, because that is sustainable. It's a part of a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I love that. Especially like I'm always nervous about like approaching dieting and all that kind of stuff, because I know, particularly for women, that it's just like forced down our throats all the time. And like, it's constantly, I know there's so many people who just like eating restricted or counting calories or anything like that is just too triggering for them, and they can't do it because they just develop a really unhealthy relationship with that and become obsessive and all those sorts of things. So I'm really glad that you said that, because I don't want to talk about dieting at all. Yeah. Like, I want to talk about food and eating, but yeah, dieting's just, I'm not a fan.
But at the same time, it's also really helpful. Like, I don't know, calorie counting.
I calorie count, but I have to be very careful because I do, like, I can't start to get obsessive about it. And if I do, I'll just stop doing it for a week or two and just put it away and come back to it if I like feel like I can. But I have to be really careful about it. And I know so many of my friends just can't do it because they just become obsessed with it and it just becomes too much.
I cannot imagine becoming obsessed with it. I mean, because it takes so much time, but I'm like the epitome of lazy.
Well, it's more like not becoming obsessed with tracking, but like becoming obsessed with the numbers and making everything fit and going under that thing. And like I think it's more to do with, it encourages for them, not for everybody, but for them, it encourages like an unhealthy relationship with food in general, rather than like, yeah, I don't know, a healthy one.
I think
fair enough.
This is absolutely perfect because you have two completely individuals with two completely different opinions on tracking right now and calorie counting. Like, you have one end of the spectrum that is like, if I do this too much, I get obsessed with it and it overpowers me, and it's, you know, you do develop this unhealthy relationship with food and with eating. Whereas Sam, on the other hand, is like, I get so bored of it, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
And it's not this thing of, that's why we really need to consider the individual in every circumstance. So, you know, Emmett would be more about maybe building habits around your eating mindfully, and maybe transitioning away from the tracking or the calorie counting. And although it go ahead.
I try to use it less as like tracking calories and focusing on the numbers, and more as like, I put this in my phone to think about, I then am putting it in my body and making sure that, like, it's kind of like a double check process of like, do I want to eat this chocolate bar? I'm looking at the calories, like, do I want to eat this? Or yes, I definitely do. I'm going to put it in anyway. Like, I'm going to have 3 more of them, going to put it in as well. Like, I don't know. It just helps me think about what I'm eating. Because also, especially in lockdown, I hate cooking. I'm a horrible cook. I'm a sucker for like just frozen things. There was like a week period where I had frozen dumplings for lunch every single day.
I just want to stress, I don't know if we've touched on this on the podcast before, but I receive Snapchats from Emily all the time of like just smoked ovens.
Yeah.
Like cupcakes that have just got charcoal.
That I accidentally put in the griller, and like, yeah, I'm a horrible cook. But so I have eaten dumplings so much in lockdown, like just things like that. And I'm like, it's the 5th day of dumplings. I'm going to think about it a little more whether I want to eat this or make a salad. Like, it's a good second check. And then if I choose to eat it anyway, I don't care. But yeah.
Yep. So you finished that really well there by saying, and I feel if I do eat it, I don't care. So it's really, really important. And one thing that I often say to my clients is that it's so important to think about food as food and not as good or bad. That is ridiculously important. Because when we do categorize foods as good or bad, it means that we can instantly undo all this work and bring so much emotion into eating. So we're already, you know, at a detriment for the fact that all of these high calorie foods are like engineered or designed. They're designed to be ridiculously palatable, highly palatable. So our body wants to store calories. Like, you know, back when we were hunter-gatherers, we didn't have these options. There were no ridiculously high-calorie foods. So when high-calorie foods were on option, well, not high-calorie, but any sort of calorie foods were on option, we would try and eat that to store body fat, so then we had fuel for the winter. We don't have that problem anymore, but we still have the mechanism that's like, I need food, I need to store body fat, so that I can survive. We need to remove guilt and stop thinking about food as good or bad, and it just makes life easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
definitely. I really want to get to this problem of like, how do I be healthy on a budget?
Yes,
because
of course.
there's so much I want to get to in the second problem as well. I just have so many things that I want to say.
Yeah. Do you have any like key tips of like, what's really important? Like
what's the most important kind of things?
Yeah. Whole foods, is it? Or is it, like avoid processed food? Yeah, just
exercise or get sleep. Like what's the most important if you're looking at becoming healthy?
And I know it's difficult as well because we've already touched on how it's so different per individual.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can make any kind of broad tips here.
Yeah.
Thank you for raising that point for me. But yes, it is very individualized, and as a blanket statement, let's say a rule of thumb, we do want to aim for minimally processed whole foods. We do want to avoid things such as, processed meats because they are carcinogenic. There's 1,000 different reasons to aim for, whole foods, such as fruits and veg because of their fiber content and things like that. Protein, your meats is going to be great for satiation if you're a vegetarian, things such as tofu. Now, in terms of exercise, I would strongly just recommend that anyone do any activity that they genuinely enjoy. Like walking could be all you need. And, that is great walking is fantastic for all areas of health. It's great for your mind. It's good for physically, it's good for you. Spiritually, it's good for you. It's just great in general. I've found that I was doing a lot of strength training for a while and eventually I was just feeling a bit beat up. So I went back to some more leaning on the side of health, but somewhat CrossFit style training. And it's just because I really enjoy that. I did it for a really long time and I loved it.
Yeah.
That's good. So do what you love what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there would you say there's a minimum healthy amount of training anyone should do? Do you think everyone should do strength training, for example?
That's a good question. I would say that as long as it doesn't go against the original statement of doing things that you love, I would recommend that people do strength training. I would recommend that they do it to their capability and not look at other people's numbers and that sort of thing. But
yes.
Building muscle is fantastic for long-term health.
I was just about to ask, what's the point of strength training? What does it help with?
Exactly. So basically having the capability to pick up grocery bags when you're getting older is very important. Having muscle mass is, I believe, it directly relates to longevity, basically.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've listened to other podcasts with neuroscientists and things, and they're always talking about how good muscle mass is. I think there's a bell curve of and obviously this is all anecdotal at this point, but I think there's a bell curve of obviously once you get past a certain point and you obsess over it and you massive bodybuilders, the longevity I think fades. They tend not to live so long because I think they're not doing wonders for their heart. But I think building muscle, there's so many benefits, and that's just.
What are the benefits for right now? If we're not talking in the future, kind of as a older person, I'm going to need to lift things. What with it, on a week to week basis, what does it help with?
You look shredded.
Sun's out, guns out, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically it's really good for current joint health. But I think with most things, it's if you really wanted to, you could be really unhealthy right now in youth. You can sort of get away with it. But as you age, that's when it's going to catch up with you. So it is more about paying yourself forward for future health. Then again, building that muscle mass and having that now is going to make you feel better in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Less achy in the morning.
I can attest to that. Well, I feel like I'm more achy while I'm doing strength training, but
that's true.
But that was the reason that I originally started going to the gym, was because I noticed the decline after being sedentary for a long time, and I went, okay, I've had enough of this. And I went to Jackie and I was like, help me, my sister.
Yeah.
And she took me to the gym, and no, I've just felt so much better ever since, and now I don't like missing it.
But why is strength training in particular important in instead of heavy cardio or anything like that? Or maybe just what's the difference between the two? In someone's looking at what kind of style of training they want to do, is there benefits to both?
Yeah, there really is. I I would encourage people to, so when I say I encourage people to do strength training, I should have said that I encourage people to do all kinds of training, really, all kinds of exercise. So strength training, aerobic training, which is your long and easy stuff. So going for a long walk, hopping on a bike and just doing a really cruisy pace for an extended period of time versus also doing, some anaerobic stuff, which is, some sort of high intensity, fast stuff. I would really encourage people to get a bit of everything in.
Yeah.
So I would say that, they all have unique benefits in their own way. But, if you can combine them all, then that's fantastic.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it's self-explanatory that exercise is good, right? There are benefits to exercise.
I think it's like training for anything. Like if I want to get better at music, I'm going to practice music and I'm going to get better at it. It's the same with training. If I want my body to last longer, if I want to be able to jump higher, I'm going to train to do that.
Yeah.
And I guess, you use those muscles more, use your heart more with, cardiovascular training, like running and whatnot. It's going to be stronger, so it's going to last longer.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea behind it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when all said and done, it's just a muscle that needs training as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I want to quickly come back to something you said earlier. When you're talking about the 5 pillars of health, you mentioned spiritual health, and I kind of want to know what that looks like for you, because I don't know, for me, I just jumped to church and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. The other ones are so easily
what does
defined.
Spiritual health look like?
So, good question. It's more about, not more about, but it also contains like your values, your beliefs. So one of the biggest things there is understanding your values and your beliefs, and then fully aligning your actions with those values and beliefs. I've had some times recently, especially going through COVID, where I don't identify as a lazy person. That's not who I am. I would think of myself as a fit and healthy person with that kind of lifestyle. But during lockdown, while the gyms were closed, I had my coach program some stuff for me to do at home. But honestly, I really didn't enjoy it. Like, it was just a struggle for me for some reason. Like, I could turn around and do some training behind me and it would be as easy as that. But for some reason, it made me frustrated. The setup was always difficult or whatever it might be. So in that time, I actually fell into this weird little pitch where my actions weren't fully aligning with my values. So I valued being fit and healthy, but my actions didn't align with that. Like, I was watching more TV, I was more sedentary, those sorts of things. So it was a really difficult spot for me. And that's why it is such an important part of health. And I guess it's spiritually understanding your purpose and why you're here.
I feel like that's a really good summary, aligning your values with, because, I feel like, I can work on this.
Yeah, I definitely can too.
No, but it makes sense that should be a pillar of health, because if your values aren't aligning with your actions, then you're obviously going to be, I feel like, not necessarily depressed, but if you have a lack of purpose.
Like, one of my issues at the moment is that I felt like I have this really newfound passion for social justice that I've never really explored before. And it just makes me really like angry when I can't do anything about it. And like, a lot of this stuff we can't do much about right now. So I'm like, I definitely think that's really important to try and like put your money where your mouth is for your own self more than anything else.
Definitely. And one thing I'd like to add to that I think a previous guest of yours had mentioned is the idea of just aiming for 1% better. Like, you don't need to exactly. So you don't need to make these leaps and bounds. It doesn't need to be 0 to 100 in one day. Like, just aim to be the tiniest bit better tomorrow, and that's all you need to do. Eventually, you're going to be fantastic. So one of the very first things we do is really understand the client's why. Why do they actually want to do this? Like, I would guess that 9 out of 10, that's approximate, 9 out of 10 people probably want to change the way they look in some way or another. So, okay, let's say it's weight loss. Okay, why do you actually want to lose weight? And I would say that for the most part, it's because of an emotional reason. Like, weight loss is just the surface. It's like, ultimately, most people want to be happier, want to feel more confident about themselves. So, you can do it yourself, really, is like, ask yourself, all right, what is my goal? My goal is to lose weight. why is that my goal? Well, because I think it would make me feel better. Okay, why do you think it would make you feel better? Well, because, you know, when I was 18 years old and I was 10 kilos lighter, you know, I felt happy and I didn't mind taking my shirt off in public. Okay, well, you've just gone a lot deeper from I want to lose weight to now you're tying in your history of like when you used to feel better about yourself and why you used to feel better about yourself. And like you can really go down the rabbit hole there and just keep asking why. And then like use that as motivation. Like it shouldn't be about like the surface level stuff will probably be hard to stick to. And then on top of that with motivation, remember like try not to go 0 to 100. Like remember that this is a long process. If you can't see yourself doing it for a really long time, then it's probably not worth starting it. Like you need to find something sustainable. It needs to work for you, and let that motivation sort of come from within.
Yeah, that's like, I don't want to say it. So that's like the best advice I've ever heard for how to stay motivated. Just keep asking why, keep digging deeper. I really like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my God, I love those guys.
I know. When those two talk to that person about that thing.
Specifically that one.
It was so good. I loved it.
Look, we're just here interrupting to tell you to please share this with some friends.
Yeah, if you could just like tell 3 friends about this podcast, that would mean the world to us. Alternatively, you could post about us on your social media. That would also be very helpful. It would be more than 3 friends who would sort of get that word of mouth. But yeah, that would be really helpful for us.
And that's all we really need to say. So yeah, if you could help support the podcast by sharing it with your friends, that would be amazing and we love you.
Yeah. Back to those super awesome people talking about that super awesome thing.
Love to chat about that thing.
Yeah, so our second problem is more about like health and stress and how that kind of like ties in. I don't know if you want to start with sleep, Sam.
Why would you look at me about that?
Because you don't sleep. And every single time I see you, you're like, I didn't sleep because of who I am as a person.
I do not say that all the time.
You said
I said
that 3 times today.
I said it today because, yeah, that's true because I didn't have any other excuse. Sometimes I have a good excuse. Like I was...
Okay, not the point. The point is, what do you guys normally talk about in regards to sleep? Like,
Sam, you suck. You need to get better at it.
You don't need him to tell you that. I'll tell you for free. Yeah, what kind of things do you talk about? And yeah.
What can I say? I remember it first came up because it's so important for recovery because I was training and I feel like I was plateauing and we're like, well, how much are you... Like, Blake just hit me with the numbers. He's like, you said you only slept an average of 6 hours this week. Like, you're not going to progress if you're not recovering. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Blake, maybe you can talk more on why sleep is important.
All right, so I actually wrote down some facts here, and I believe I got Sam to listen to a podcast where he covered this with Joe Rogan, but
we'll link it.
Actually, I remember that week I had already listened to it and you linked it to me. I was like, I just listened to this.
We'll link it? It's good?
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah. 100%. I'm going to recommend this today. At the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is based on, well, this would be Matthew Walker and his book, Why We Sleep. So he's a researcher. I believe he's a neuroscientist. But yeah, so he's done some research and an interesting one that came out with daylight savings time. So during daylight savings, when we lose an hour of sleep, heart attacks increase by 24%.
Like on that day?
Yeah.
On that day.
Oh my God.
And then on the flip side, when we gain an hour again, heart attacks decrease by 21%.
Oh my God.
That's how important
I need to
sleep
include
is.
that clip of my face because what?
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff. It is insanely important. And even if we think about this, so going back to when we were hunters and gatherers again, doesn't make sense that back in those times we would sleep for 8 hours a day if we're so vulnerable in that state.
Yeah, just highlighting the importance
That's
of
why,
sleep.
exactly
like it must
right.
be so important that, that podcast is such a good listen.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm already hooked.
But it's crazy too. Like, you spend a third of your life asleep and you just don't think about it that much.
Like, how important it must be to do that.
Exactly. So a part of this, though, one thing I'd really like to attach is that you spoke of identity there a little bit and saying that Sam actually identifies as someone who is a bad sleeper.
He also identifies as someone who can't turn up on time to anything.
Hey, right, relax, okay? This isn't a roast. I don't identify as that. Like, I hate myself for that. Both of those things I despise about myself and I want to work on, but it's hard for me.
I roll.
Anyway.
So, not to pick on you, but let's say that someone identifies as being unhealthy. That person, that is attached to their identity. That is an affirmation. I am unhealthy. So they truly believe that within themselves. They have a story about being unhealthy. Now, because of that, they are always going to find a way to be unhealthy. And that's something really, really important and a pretty easy takeaway and something you can implement is just if your goal is to be healthier, tell yourself, I am healthy. Ask yourself, what would a healthy person do in this situation?
Yeah, that sounds like really good advice. And I feel like I do, when I say things like that, I intend it to be a joke, but I think, that's how I started unironically dabbing. So I got to cut that out.
Where did that even come from?
I'm just saying, like, you say something more like you joke about it and then it becomes like not a joke anymore. I don't know why I included dabbing.
Anyway.
But yeah, I should probably, I'm just saying I should probably stop joking about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you should.
I'm not a bad sleeper.
Do you this reminds me of like manifesting kind of energy of like people who like actively try to like look at a picture of the thing that they want every single day and like manifest that that's going to happen. Is that something that you kind of like are into? I don't know.
Definitely. So in the form of visualization for myself. So I think that's a really important part of like setting yourself up for success. And always it comes back to that spirituality and knowing your purpose and understanding your why. Why are you doing this? And then, this is why you do have that visualization. And honestly, like I have it a part of my morning routine. And I know the days when I don't do it because, my productivity goes down, just not aligning myself fully with what I want to do. And I think it's so important to have a visualization of like, okay, it doesn't have to be 10, 20, 30 years down the future. It could be next week. Just like, what do you want? How do you want to improve you? And that's not to say that you shouldn't, because you really should love yourself. But just understand that we're not perfect. There's always going to be room for us to grow. So how do you want to grow?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. We started with sleep. How did we even get there?
This happens all the time.
I want to talk about stress and exercise a little bit because I know that for me, like one of the main reasons that I go to the gym, aside from like vanity and wanting to look good, is because I just have a lot of like, I call it nervous energy. It's like anxious energy. And it's just like, when you just don't do anything for a while and you just, all that energy sort of bubbles up into stress. Like I try to get that all out at the gym. Like, is that right? Like I'm sure exercise and like improves stress. I'm sure I've seen like that everywhere. But yeah, I don't know if you can give more insight into that.
Yeah, so you're bang on the money there. Basically, exercise releases all sorts of endorphins and hormones, dopamine, so that we feel better. It also, like you said, it helps massively with reducing stress. And that's one of the main reasons I do recommend just walking in general, is because it is a massive way to decrease stress. It actually activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest part of the nervous system. So it puts you in a state where you are relaxed. So light bulb
Sorry,
moment.
I just had a night or two ago, Em messaged me and she was like, "Are you okay? I just saw you went on a walk."
Because his activity came up on my watch being like, he went on another midnight walk, and I was like, just checking in, and then you didn't respond. So if you died, it would be fine.
My phone goes into do not disturb mode or whatever. And the next morning I was like, oh yeah, what the hell? I'm fine. Yeah, I just went on a walk because during quarantine I used to do that all the time. But I go and whenever I go on walks, I feel better. And I don't, for some reason, it takes a lot to get me outside to actually go on walk. Once I do it, I always know I feel better afterwards, but I don't know why I can't make that decision beforehand to actually do it more often. I don't know. But anyway, no, that aha moment clicked. I was like, oh, yeah, no, I do always feel better after I do that. And on days off when I don't go to the gym, it's so important that I go for that walk. And it was a rest day, which is why I did that walk.
Yeah. You know the days where you like feel really bad and so you go to the gym because you want the endorphins and you want to like feel better, but then it kind of doesn't work. Like, what is that? What happens there? Is it just because your like negativity is much more powerful than you would have thought? I don't know. Happens to me a lot.
Yeah. So there could be a lot of factors that go into that. And going back to our previous topic, the first thing I'd look at there would be sleep. How well did you sleep the night before? Because there's only so much you can do to, pump up the endorphins. But when sleep is really lacking, you're likely going to feel under the weather, basically. So that's one of the main reasons that, exercise is great, as well as that it also allows you to get to sleep and sleep better.
Okay. Is there a way that people can like measure their sleep, fix their sleep? Like if they're listening to this being like, my sleep is horrible, like what can we do about it? Definitely.
So a pretty good gauge is like, okay, how do I feel today? What could I have done better to sleep better? So things that you can actually put into practice there. I mean, one on a technology side is you could get some form of tracker, whether that's an Apple Watch, Fitbit. I actually wear a Whoop band, which is not necessarily a watch, but in terms of tracking metrics such as sleep and stress, it is fantastic. But no matter what you get, they're not going to be completely accurate. What's important is that you monitor the trends. So, did I get more sleep than last night? Is it saying that I got more sleep? Is it saying that, my sleep quality was better? Even if it's not completely accurate, it should somewhat tell you if you're moving in the right direction or not. So that really can be a pretty good option. And it's constantly getting better in terms of how well it can track. So, that's going to continue.
For someone who doesn't want to go out and buy something, is it just it's important to just kind of track something, right? So can you just kind of record the hours that you're sleeping and kind of keep that as a trend? Be like, okay, it was 8, but now it's down to 6 or 5 hours. And is it the idea, the tracking aspect?
Yeah, basically. So, you are tracking some metric. So are you referring to when you are wearing a watch, or now if you don't want the technology side?
If you don't have a watch or some sort of program, or also because I know Sam tracks his sleep with his watch. I started doing it the other day and I did it for 3 days, and I was looking at the statistics being I don't understand what the point of this is, because I know the hours that I sleep between roughly, because it's kind of the same every day, but it's not necessarily telling me the quality of sleep during the night. So I'm not fully understanding.
I think there's apps that are supposed to, but I've never found one that does it well, that communicates that well. I see that all these apps have they're bars and they have lines in them. Yeah. And I'm what does this mean? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Or I knew that I woke up in the middle of the night, but it wasn't shown in my sleep thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that goes back to technology just not being up to scratch yet, basically, is that, when all said and done, it's trying to measure your sleep from basically movement and your heartbeat. So it's not going to be completely accurate. So ways you can set it up without technology is implementing some sort of bedtime routine. Now, that could be as simple as, having the bedtime feature on iPhone set up, or, it could be having some sort of alarm that goes, okay, it's 8:30 at night, let's go have a tea. And you have a decaffeinated tea such as a
honey chamomile vanilla.
There you go.
My favourite flavour.
There you go. So, yeah, it could be as simple as starting that, and just that puts your body into a state where it goes, okay, I'm getting ready to go to sleep. So you let your mind know, let your body know it's time to relax. I'm going to sleep soon. And, yeah, that can be a really great way to get started. You can also look at things such as ZMA, which is a supplement for getting some vitamins and some minerals in before bed, which will aid in sleep. I believe Sam is on at the moment.
Oh yeah, the magnesium
supplement.
Yeah.
Have you found that for you?
I don't know that it's I find it hard to measure. I'm not sure if it's helping me or not. Because nothing else is consistent. So
because you straight up just don't go to bed, so how would you know?
Okay, can I say, and we haven't chatted, like Blake and I haven't had a meeting this week yet, but my sleep this week has been amazing, except I just dropped the ball on Friday. The problem is you drop the ball once and it throws out everything. If it's not consistent, everything's ruined. At least I find that. It's so hard to get back on the track. Like if I'm on TikTok until 3 a.m. or something, it's all out the window. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is one of the reasons that sleep is so important. And creating that consistency around it is because, a good night's sleep is going to allow you to make what I would call higher level decisions throughout the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you're running off, 5 to 6 hours sleep, you're not going to be operating at your 9 or 10 performance throughout the day. So then on top of that, you're then expecting yourself to make good decisions in terms of, all those areas of health that we've touched on. So it's like if you're only operating at 7 or 8 out of 10, then on top of that, the best you can do to make a 10 out of 10 decision in that situation is a 7 or an 8. You're likely only going to make a decision that's a 4, 5, maybe 6 if you're doing really well. Whereas if you're getting optimal sleep and you're operating at a 9 or a 10, then even your lower level decisions are still going to land at like a 6 or a 7, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I want to revert back to that recommendation for that podcast as well, for the sleep. I feel like we can touch more on sleep there with the neuroscientist because there's so many mind-blowing stats about literally just having 1 hour less of sleep. Like if you're a man, your testosterone production will be that of someone who's 10 years older than you. If just 1 hour less sleep per night will do that. So it's like your performance in the gym will not be as good. Like you're way more likely to injure yourself. It's like I understand how important this all is, but I still procrastinate.
Yeah.
Like I sleep procrastinate like a bitch.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And this all comes back to lifestyle though. As we've discussed, there's certain factors that cause you to not want to get to sleep as much.
Yeah.
So it's about addressing holistically yourself as an individual or having someone assist you to do that, but taking a look at your lifestyle and, how you can improve that to ultimately become a happier person.
Well, great. Do you have a problem for us?
Well, this is one thing that I often ask my clients to do and really, really scared me. Really scared me when I found out that a lot of my clients actually don't think of themselves in this way. So I'd like to ask, how can people in general live happier lives?
Yeah, not laughing at the question, laughing
We're
because
just laughing because this is hard and we're probably not the best people ever to deal with it. My first thought is I've been seeing a psychologist recently because my just anxiety and you remember how I said a few episodes ago that like I'm not a depression kind of person? Jokes. Apparently I am now.
Just
Love
only
that.
Kidding.
I literally psyched.
I'm
like,
sorry, that's terrible. I'm sorry for you.
No, it's fine.
That's terrible.
But one thing that my psychologist has been talking to me a lot about is just like, why do I care so much? Like who gives a fuck what happens? Like I was talking about, I've been randomly like socially anxious, I think because of COVID, but just like have a lot of like stress about going out in public and like whether or not I'm going to have fun and whether or not I'm going to be happy or whether I'm going to be sad. Like, and she's like, literally, who cares? Like, just go and just chill and like what happens, happens. And if you're not having fun, you can leave. And if you are having fun, that's great. And if you're sad, like that's just a part of life and being sad is fine. And you need to just like let the people around you help you if you need to, or just go for a walk for a quick sec. Like just the idea that like literally no one cares, literally like in the best way possible, and that no one thinks about me to the extent that I think about me is been something that I really like. Even like getting my assignments done, if I'm like super stressed about them, I'm like, who cares? Just try to stop caring a little bit, because like if your assignment doesn't get done, your life will still keep going. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, in a good way, I'm trying to just...
Yeah, it's a liberating type of way.
That, it tries to take a lot of that pressure off. No one cares about you
as much as you do, kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm trying to... Taking that pressure off has been a good... I haven't succeeded in it yet, but has been a good idea to try to like... I think once I can do it a little bit more will make me just a little bit happier, because it doesn't... The things that I stress so much about don't matter is kind of my answer. But I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like a really good way to get insight into this problem is to ask people who are genuinely happy what their success stories are. I feel like in general, people who, I don't even want to say happy, probably people who are more fulfilled are ones who really are in tune with that, like that spiritual pillar of health. They really know their purpose. They know they are working towards it. I think I saw it in a stand-up comic set once. I don't know if I've said this before, but someone said, I may have said this on the podcast once before, but they were like, as long as you're, I genuinely believe that as long as you're working towards, some kind of dream, even if you don't achieve the dream, as long as you're working towards it, you will be a happier person.
Because once you achieve the thing, there's something else to achieve anyway. Like, it can't be about the goal, because that you achieve that and then there's a new goal. Like, it just...
Exactly.
You don't want to define happiness by always chasing something. It has to be about the chase and the growth and the...
Yeah, and that's why I like when someone said about like searching for the job you want to do, think about the process. I think Annie said this, I don't know if it was on or off the air, but she was like, what processes do you enjoy? Like, what do you enjoy doing that's not about the end task, it's about the journey. Like if it's like...
The task that you're going to do every day, do you like doing it?
Yeah, if it's like, for example, like a bartender or something, they love... Like, I love moving around. I love interacting with people. Like, what... And then you kind of think about what jobs involve those aspects. And I think working towards that... And I feel like I'm not qualified to give this advice as someone who's not necessarily...
But that's the point of the podcast, right? Is that we don't know what we're doing and nobody's alone and it's fine.
But we're mulling it over, and I think there's some nuggets in there of wisdom.
Did we answer the question? I forget what it was.
I think you did, yeah. How can people live happier lives? Oh. And I think Sam raised a good point there around fulfillment.
What do you think of our...
Leading a fulfilling lives.
What do you think of our response, and where are you on that journey as well? Would you call yourself a happy person?
Yeah, I think I'm constantly growing into that, and I think you both touched on it really well in terms of, so for starters, being more compassionate with yourself. I really like to think about, because there's a lot of conversations that go on in the back of our minds. I believe it's 95% of all thoughts are subconscious. That's insane how much thought goes on.
How would you even measure that? But fair.
So with that, just all of these thoughts rush through our heads, and thoughts that, if you were to verbalize them to your best friend, you'd feel terrible. You'd never do it. So why on earth do we give those same thoughts to ourselves? How is that in any way productive? Well, it's not. There's no point telling yourself, oh, you suck, you're worthless, or these sorts of things. Like, imagine telling your best friend that. Feel horrible. You wouldn't do it.
Or even just like saying it out loud to yourself. Like, I could half the things that I think I couldn't say out loud, which is like part of what, when I have to tell my psychologist that I'm thought this thing, she's like, ooh, I'm like, yeah, I know. Damn it.
Yeah, but what I find so interesting is that we got Blake on because he's like
nutrition engineer?
Nutrition engineer. What was your career? Like, I'm like a web analyst. What would you say that you are?
Guess when all's said and done, I'd be a coach.
Life coach. No, nutrition coach?
Nutrition coach, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I heard it recently on a podcast. The people that I studied through, they actually referred to it as the ultimate bait and switch. So you bring people in by saying like, hey, you want to lose weight, I can help you do that. But realistically, the end goal is just to change their lives, make them happier, give them the opportunity to live a more fulfilling life.
I was going to say, because I think it's so interesting. I went to you for nutrition and we always end up back here, like where we just ended up before, of like how do we get there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that kind of talks to like what health is about too.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm lacking in that area, I can't progress in this other area.
Yeah, this is good. I feel like I just need to like take a few breaths, but let's power on and do our recommendations.
Yep.
Can you tell what kind of personality type I am? Do you want to go first, Sam?
I told you I was going to recommend
the podcast.
There's the podcast, but I also recommend something more in line with what I do with Blake every week. Like I use True Protein, and this isn't like there's no like brand sponsorships, but I just enjoy this protein. I feel like I should recommend it. I've been using it for ages, and it's delicious. And I think it's really good quality. So yeah, I'm just going to recommend True Protein this week. I'm
probably going to take you up on that recommendation because I just cannot find a protein that I like.
It's so delicious. It is.
You've given me that recommendation for months and I've ignored it.
They have vegan options as well, but like I use the whey WPI 90 or whatever. And one of my favorite things to do with it is I have an iced coffee. So I'll have a double shot of coffee and I put like one sugar to taste. I pour that over ice. And then I fill it with milk and I put in the French vanilla protein. So I get like my 30 grams of protein or whatever it is. And it tastes like, it's so delicious. It tastes exactly like a Starbucks iced coffee if you're into that. I love it. But anyway, that's my recommendation. Also the sleep thing.
Yeah.
We'll link that. Okay. Blake, do you have
any
recommendation for us?
Yeah. To touch on your one there, Sam, the True Protein, if you like strawberry milk, I recently got their strawberry flavour and it is incredible. It tastes exactly like an oat strawberry milk. It's an absolute game changer.
I just ordered more yesterday. Damn it. Maybe I could update the order. Yeah, I might.
But I think I'd encourage people to just, I don't know, maybe take 10 to 15 minutes to reflect on themselves. Journal, ask yourself why. What is your goal? Why do you want to do it? Ask yourself why a bunch more times.
I like that. It's a good recommendation.
I'm going to have to go with a recommendation that I'm not 100% backing myself for just yet, but I think it's going to be great. So I'm just going to recommend it anyway.
I'm going to recommend this. You don't have to do it.
I might change my mind on it. So maybe stay tuned. This is like a hesitant recommendation, but I tried pre-workout for the first time and I got this flavor from Naked Harvest, and it's this. They talk about how it's like specifically tailored for women because we get like less of a crash with this one in particular. Like I don't know if I believe any of that, but the flavor is iced tea, like tropical iced tea, and which is like my favorite drink ever. That's not true, but I do like it. I'm just waffling. Wow, I'm a mess. But basically, I tried this pre-workout. And I was at the gym for about an hour and 45 minutes by accident, and I could have just gone longer. I just felt so good. And I read later that the actual pre-workout has like a mood enhancer in it, but I felt on top of the moon. Like it was the best I'd felt in like a while. I just was really happy. The endorphins were so good. I felt like I could just train for so much longer. Like, I mean, I know you're not supposed to take it every day, so I haven't taken it again since, which is why I'm like not 100% backing the recommendation, but I can't wait to try it again. Because it was delicious, even if that's all it is.
Is it like most pre-workouts in that the active ingredient would be caffeine?
Yeah, but it's only 120 milligrams of caffeine. Okay. I think I know my brother his one was 300 milligrams of protein.
That is a lot.
He has.
So caffeine.
Caffeine. So we were comparing them because I remember I tried one of his pre-workouts. Oh my God,
300 milligrams. So I think for reference, I think a normal cup of coffee is about 80 to 150 or something.
Yeah.
So like a double shot would be like.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a lot. I tried one of his pre-workouts a couple months ago and I was really scared of it. So I only took like a half serve, which if it was that one was probably a great thing. But I didn't really feel it, maybe because I took a half serve and whatever. But this one that I tried was really, really good and really delicious. And I know they have a lot of other flavors and it was good. I recommend that.
Well, Blake, do you have anything else you'd like to say? Do you want to?
Can you plug yourself on all the places that people can find you / make sure I don't miss anything when I like put you in the show notes and all that kind of stuff?
Of course. So I'm not really active on Instagram anymore with my business account, but you can still message me at engineered.nutrition. If you can find me on Facebook, Blake Atkins, please add me there. That's where I do most of my content. I actually have a Facebook group called Weight Loss Without Workouts. And that's a great place to check out where I put a lot of my content, do live trainings and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can obviously vouch for Blake as a...
Oh, yeah, if they want to get in contact with you for, like, sessions, where should they... Onto your Facebook page? Is that where they should go?
Yeah, Facebook page, Instagram, Facebook in general, Blake Atkins. Just get in contact with me.
I was going to say, Blake has been great for me because I ultimately lack accountability. And so having that weekly consult with Blake puts me, it's like a constant nudge back on track. And it's a constant reminder, why am I doing this? And I'm getting better all the time. So I've really appreciated all of our sessions, Blake. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people get a lot of value out of this too.
Yeah, definitely. This has been really great.
Yeah, I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can subscribe, leave us a review, follow us on Instagram, show us where you're listening by posting and tagging us on Instagram. We also have a Patreon account and you can subscribe there and support us if you'd like.
Also, the music is by The Vinyl Press and you can find them on Instagram at The Vinyl Press.
Yeah, and send us any problems that you have. We want to solve them for you.
Woo!